Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to episode 370 of Picks and Ponies on the HHH Racing Podcast Network. I am your host tonight, special guest host, Pete Visco, filling in for your normal host, Howard Kravitz, who is, I don't know, he's got to do something for his day job. He's at the school, probably annoying parents and teachers, other teachers and children alike as we speak. So tonight you'll be stuck with me and my normal co-host, Paul Halloran, who we will get to in a moment. Tonight, we have a great show. We're going to be covering, we're going to be covering the 6 graded stakes races at Kentucky Downs. Big full fields, like we know there. We expect some crazy bomb prices. Hopefully, we're going to give out a couple crazy bombs. And the good thing is there's an all-stakes pick 5 in there, which we don't talk about the pick 5 sequences anymore, but we're going to be covering the all-stakes pick 5, and then we're going to end with Cogburn. So it's a fantastic sequence of races. Before we get into that, let's do a couple administrative items. As you can see scrolling down on the screen there, please subscribe on our YouTube channel. If you're watching tonight or if you're listening, go to our YouTube channel, subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't do anything. And definitely hit that like button, hit the notification bell. The notification bell tells you when we're going to have other episodes that maybe aren't on our normal schedule. And the like button just tells YouTube that we're awesome and you like us. There's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. If you're an audio listener, please, same thing. Listen, subscribe, rate, review, whether you're on Spotify, Apple, Anchor, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please check us out. On Twitter, or X, I should say, follow the show at HKravitz, and we're on Instagram at instagram.com/HHH Racing Podcast. Also, you'll see in our notations on the screen, when Paul and I come up, you can follow us as well. And the Betting and Boozing guys, follow everybody. We're all good follows, and then you'll stay in contact with us and the show. Our website, hhhracingpodcast.com. Check it out. Power pick info, photos, articles, all kinds of information about us, the podcast. Check us out, please, for sure. There's great information on there, and it leads into plenty of information about our power picks. These are our standard power picks, $15.99 a month, $4 a week. You could subscribe beneath the video player or through our website. There's a link on Patreon. Again, you get the power picks on Saturdays. And speaking of the power picks, in case I forget, Howard, who's not with us tonight, his Kentucky Downs picks will be included in this Saturday's power picks. I assume that'll be our feature track or his feature track. So if you want his picks, you still have time. I mean, time is ticking for this weekend. If you sign up by the end of today, basically by midnight, you'll be in for this weekend's power picks. You can sign up yearly or monthly, whatever you want to do. Also, the Del Mar only power picks. Our Saratoga power picks finished last week. Our Del Mar power picks have one more weekend to go. Noah Maher has been killing it, actually. He's been giving out some great prices, lots of winners. So check those out. Again, if you subscribe to them via our website, go check out the website. There's a Del Mar power picks page. By 11:59 or midnight tonight, then you will be eligible to receive them this weekend, and you will get Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So definitely, if you're interested in closing weekend at Del Mar, go to our website, check those out. Like I said, Noah's been on fire, so you want to ride him one last weekend, definitely do it. Now, let me bring on my co-host, my normal Thursday co-host, but now it's just the 2 old guys from the Saratoga Special, our great friend, Paul Halloran. What's up, Paul? How's it going, my friend? Oh, he's on mute. Come on, man. When I'm hosting, there we go.
I was going to say, I haven't been called normal that often, Pete. So,
well, normal is a very, I use that term very loosely in this case. So
correct.
So what's going on? How are you?
There's nothing normal about trying to handicap Kentucky Downs, is there, Pete?
It is fantastic. It's funny.
It is.
The first race we're going to talk about, we'll get to, has 9 horses, and I'm like, man, that's a small field for Kentucky Downs. Meanwhile, that's the biggest field we have at some of these tracks all all summer. I was going to ask you a quick question, but let's just say a quick hi to who's in the chat here. Of course, Katie beat me to the punch, even though I was hosting tonight. She's watching Delmar and Woodbine. Hello, Katie. Let's see. Me and Katie were chatting, so I have to scroll down for a bit. Look, there you go, Paul. Matt Miller agrees with you. Normal host. We got Rob N. Oh, premium free PPs. That is awesome. Thank you, Paul. Giddy up, Pete. Thank you, Matt. Let's see. Anybody else we got? That's it in the chat. Pete might be the most normal host of the group. Matt, I know a lot of people in my life, including my wife, who would disagree with that post, but I'll take it. So, Paul, I was going to ask you before we get into the handicapping, any quick post-mortems on the end of Saratoga? Anything you loved, anything you haven't talked about, anything you're missing already, or just any comments you want to make about the closing of your beloved Saratoga for the meet?
Yeah, we touched on it a little bit on Monday morning with Howard, the last day of the meet, and it's kind of funny, Pete. I talked to Howard. I think it was Monday night. Anyway, there were 39 cards this year, as you know. There was one cancellation, and let's face it, it's tough sledding. Maybe not as tough as Kentucky Downs, but. And I did not, as I put in the power picks on Monday, closing day, I did not see the ball well for the meet. And then Monday, it's like when you hit that 12-foot birdie putt on the 18th hole. Monday, I did a lot of things right and didn't get out for the meet, but I got almost halfway out.
That's
which
nice.
In one day out of 38 is not bad. So, it was great. We talked about it as again on Monday. It's a real paradox, Pete. It's such a grind and it's intense and it's exhausting, but it goes by. It's seemingly, it just seems like we were doing the opening day show yesterday, right?
I know.
And
yeah.
So it's 8 weeks. Going to be a little longer next year. We addressed that. One more day this is not confirmed, but if I were a betting man, one more day on Belmont Stakes week, and it looks a lot like the last week of the Belmont at Aqueduct spring meet, which happens to coincide with the July 4th holiday, will be conducted upstate on Union Avenue. They will not stay. They're not staying from the end of the Belmont Stakes meet, obviously.
Yeah.
But they're going to go to because Saratoga closes the earliest possible day next year. So Labor Day is September 1st, which means opening day is the earliest possible day, right?
Yeah.
I think it's July 10th. So they would probably run up there like, say, July 2, 3, 4, 5, that last weekend. And July 4th in Saratoga Springs. I'll be in Kennebunkport, but I'll be.
I'm sure you'll be putting a couple wagers in.
Without question.
Yeah, I'm sure. As long as your phone is working, that's all good.
Yeah,
right?
I sent you the picture, Pete. I took a photo. I drove by your beloved Kings every day on my way into the parking lot.
Little quick shout out to King's Tavern.
I went to Pinnell's 3 out of 4 nights this time, so
nice.
It's become my regular spot. Sat at the bar 2 nights and just had a phenomenal time.
That sounds awesome.
Spent some time with the Book of Dano people, Pete, the Jersey guys, who are just Pete, the best.
Yeah,
it's easy enough to root for that horse anyway, right? But in fact, they had all watched the show we did on Tuesday that week, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
They were all watching, and I ended up writing about him and went out to watch him train on Friday morning at 7:00 and spent some time with 3 or 4 of the owners, and just great. I like all Jersey people, Pete.
We're all awesome. What are you going to do?
No doubt.
None of that is a shock to me. But that's
so. Yeah,
awesome,
I'm sorry to see it end, but we're moving on. We got Keeneland. I booked Keeneland flights yesterday, so that'll keep me going. I got the Pennsylvania Derby coming up in another 2 weeks.
That? 2 weeks? Yeah.
And
that's a good one.
While it may not be a competitive race, the opportunity to see Torpedo Anna again will be great.
Yes.
she's going to run in the cotillion, and she'll be a very tough out in the
Yeah.
cotillion.
I mean, I think, is Power Squeeze supposed to go? Power Squeeze has been running well. I think did I read that? I don't remember now. My memory stinks.
You would think so, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
would
why
think
not?
so.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know about
So yeah,
contending. Yeah,
we're looking forward, but
we always
yeah,
do.
we'll be back at Saratoga soon enough.
Soon.
Wednesday of Belmont Stakes week next year.
Well, let's start building our bankroll now, right? With Kentucky Downs this weekend. Let's
Yes.
segue right into that, and we'll build the bankroll, and we'll see what we can do. All right. Well, let's get into. Let me bring up. We'll start with the first leg. Like I said, this kicks off the. There's a pick 5 from races 6 through 10. There's also a pick 5 from races 7 through 11. We're not covering the 11th. I think that might be a maiden special weight. I can't remember, but we're covering basically the all stakes or all graded stakes pick 5, and then the turf sprint. So we're going to start off with the 6th race here.
That's the Pete. What's on that the 11th is the Cogburn race.
Did I say the yes? Yeah, they don't. Yeah, the Cogburn race isn't in the.
It's not in the pick 5.
All stakes pick 5. It's in the late pick 5. Yes, there's a late one.
Are you sure about that?
Well, let me.
Because isn't there a race after that?
Is it the 8th? Oh,
yes.
I'm sorry. It's the 8th. My apologies. The 8th through the 12th. My apologies. My math skills are a little rusty today. The 8th through the 12th is the late pick 5. The 6th, which I had scrolled right past, the 6th, 7, 8, 9, 10 are in the all graded stakes pick 5.
Correct.
My apologies. Yes, thank you for pointing that out.
The late pick 5, we also call that the degenerate pick 5.
The degenerate pick 5. Well, that's the normal, since we're on the normal pick tonight. That is the normal pick 5. But we like these middle ones. And I assume, maybe they don't put Cogburn in the graded stakes one because he's going to be a relatively decent favorite, but we'll get to that race in a bit because we think there might be some opportunity there, but we'll get to that later. That's a little tease, as we call it in the business. So we have race 6, the Light and Wonder Ladies Marathon, a grade 3, going a mile and 5/16, obviously on the turf, $2 million purse just for fun. We have a field of 9 with a very soft favorite, the number 2, Chop Chop for Cox and Pratt. So let's see. We don't agree much, by the way. We have a couple winners, but we don't agree a ton. So let's see where we're going to go here. Paul is going with the 4, and I am going with the 7. And since I am hosting tonight, I am going to let you talk about the 4, Greenfinch. And what do you like about this one, aside from the Aidan O'Brien stuff?
Yes, cousin Aidan. Well, it's interesting, Pete. This horse, I watched train in Saratoga a couple of mornings. This horse was scheduled to run in the Saratoga Oaks. Unfortunately, before the race was canceled, that was on Friday, the day before the Whitney. Before the race was canceled, this horse scratched, came up with a stone bruise on her foot. Nothing serious, but just enough to force them to scratch. And then they ended up canceling the Saratoga Derby. So Diego Velazquez, who had traveled with her, they basically got a round trip to Saratoga with no running.
I can think of worse things to do here.
So she went back, and she's fine now. I think this is a somewhat confident move by Aidan. He is running her against older fillies and mares. She is a 3-year-old. As I said, she was running in the Oaks. Coming off a race that was the race that convinced him to run her in the Saratoga Oaks. He really wasn't sure what he was going to do, but she ran very well in that race at Killarney, and she came to the Oaks. So, again, there's a lot of different ways you can go. I used your horse that you could talk about. I used second. I think Butchie Reed's horse is a really good shot here as well. But I am going to go with the €1. The 1 is a euro as well in this race for Roger Varian. But I am going to go with Team Ballydoyle to kick this off.
Never a bad choice. I don't have her in my top 3, but not for any super negative reason. The only thing I wasn't sure about, her wins both came going 8 furlongs and down, and then the 2 longer races. Again, they were, maybe three back was in a group three, not the highest company in the world, but her two losses came going a little bit longer. So that was my, again, if you're trying to knock sort of a lower priced horse, you got to find a nitpick in any way you can. But I'm sure Aiden's not bringing her over. I'm sure he thinks the distance is going to be no problem, or he wouldn't bring her over. So you have the 7, Nisi Marie, in second. I have her on top. This is just a horse that I've always really liked, and she's one of those. I like her because she's always in the back. She's always closing. She tends to leave herself too much to do, which seems to fit my MO in my handicapping, unfortunately. But a couple things I like, aside from the fact, and I'll show the time form in a second, I don't think there's a ton of pace in here. I don't know what you thought about the pace. I don't think there's a ton. But I do think if Rosario, and again, that's a big if Rosario can not have the horse in dead last, let's keep the horse sort of mid-pack. If we can keep her a little bit closer, he's ridden her twice. She's got a win in the Bogey, and she's got a nice second to Didia beating Warlike Goddess. So and in the Bogey beat White Beam. So with Rosario up, he knows her. He's been successful with her. And I think she just is going to like the marathon distances. She's run some really nice races going extra long. I think that's going to benefit her, and you're getting her at a decent price. She's getting some class relief. I mean, she's been facing some monsters. We always talk about this when you look on the board here. You see Moira, you see Fev Rover, White Beam, Warlike Goddess. There's some monsters, even Eternal Hope, who's a nice horse. There's some really good horses here. I think this could be a spot for her to finally get home. She hasn't gotten home as much as you would like her for a horse that always seems to really run her race, aside from in the Diana 2-back. What do you think about the 7? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I think I would like to have bought her for $25,000
Wouldn't that
at
be
Timonium.
nice? Wouldn't that be nice? Especially after she wins this one and brings home whatever it is, the 1.2 or whatever it is you get from this.
You're right about the company, and I'll tell you this about her last race, Pete. I used Fev Rover in that race and try to beat Moira, although I used Moira. And, there wasn't, as I recall, it wasn't like that race fell apart at all. In fact, Fev Rover.
Should I show the replay?
Sorry. Yeah, you'll have to take my word for it. But Fev Rover nearly went all the way in that race. Moira got her late. And this horse did do a little closer. This is an ultra consistent horse. The Diana, I don't want to say it was the grade 1 because she was coming off a second in a grade 1 to Didia. Something just didn't go her way that day. But if you take that out, she's first, second, or third virtually every race. And I will always root for Butch Reed. He's one of the great guys in the business. So, I will probably have this horse on the A line when I do my grid.
I like it. Let's see. We'll hit a couple other ones. The 6, Vergara, I have in second. You don't have this horse. This is another one who, if you see on the screen here, has a hard time dealing with Chop Chop, which is a problem since Chop Chop is the favorite in the race, but is always sort of right there, right behind. But again, I think that she's very tactical, and she picks up Gaffleone, who's been ice cold at this meet, but was the leading rider last year, knows the course, is comfortable at the course, has been facing good company, and I think just trip wise, I think she's going to get a solid trip. She's very tactical. She's always generally close, so I just think, if nothing else, she's going to give you a run. Maybe she's just not better than a horse like Chop Chop, and that's going to be the problem. But she always gives you the run, and she's going to be there. Now it just depends on whether she can. Oh, the last thing, she's 2 for 2 at Kentucky Downs, which I know we've talked about this when we covered it last time. Experience over this course is vital. I know we probably talked about it, but let's do it again for this show. How much stock do you put into races over the course, and successful, or I should say unsuccessful, either one, races over this course?
Yeah, I think both, Pete, but definitely successful, because it is it's a mile and 5/16. It's I saw a video this week and some photos. My good friend Tim Wilkin, who's down there working on the PR team, walked the course and put up a photo. And if you look at a photo, on the backstretch, it's not like a slight incline. I mean, it is, it's not a mountain either, but it's a hill. It's a hill more than an incline.
Yes.
So yeah, I would put stock in that. One thing we should talk about too, Pete, it's been very, very dry down there, and of course we always complain when races get taken off the turf. They don't have that option. They have no dirt.
Yeah.
But they could probably use some rain. And people, if you've been watching on TV, turf is looking a little dry and eaten up. The rails will come down for this card Saturday.
Okay.
So those first 4 paths, which they have not used yet, will be pristine. So it'll be interesting. I'm assuming you're going to see jockeys try to get position and move to their left. Unless they're in the one, and they'll stay straight. But yeah, the rails come down, and the grass in those first 3, 4, 5 paths should be very good to run on.
So, and it's probably good to watch the early races, which I know most people will be doing, to see how it's playing, see if it sort of causes any sort of bias or anything. But yeah, and I didn't mention too, she is the defending champ, which I'm always a sucker for, the defending champ of a race coming back. So she is the defending champ. I enjoy that. Let's talk about one more. We both have the favorite, Chop Chop. You have her in third. I have her in third. Anything you dislike, or any reason, or is it just, hey, is this sort of an A horse? Gets Pratt back again? Is this an A horse for you?
I would say probably not. I mean, if there's one thing I didn't like, it's that she runs second more often than she wins.
Yep.
5 wins in 7 seconds. Now you can go against Mr. Pratt in graded stakes at your own peril.
Yeah. I figured out that I find it hard to just chop him off the A line. And I'm like, even if I don't love the horse, I still leave him up there. And that's a little detrimental sometimes. But
if you chose to try to beat him regularly at Saratoga, say hello to the people at the homeless shelter for us tonight.
Yeah, we would.
This horse is, I would say, because you can't use them all, I'll probably have on the B line.
Yeah.
I would hopefully be trying to beat her. It's interesting, Pete. You mentioned she ran Vergara 3 times, but relatively unproven against the rest. But that's what you're going to have here. These races are an amalgamation. Is that the word? Amalgam.
I think so. Yes.
You got Euros coming. You got horses coming from Ellis, from Saratoga. Indianapolis. There's been a couple of horseshoe Indianapolises.
Yeah.
So it's really hard. But I do agree with you, Pete, that Nisi Marie has not ducked anyone. She's been, Butchie is Pennsylvania bred, we might add. She has run with, you mentioned Didier and Whitebeam and Moira and Gina Romantica and Warlike Goddess, and it goes on and on. So
as good as they get.
That's as good as it gets. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I leaned there. But I think it's a good race, though. It's a tough race. I think it's a good way to start off a pick 5 sequence, because you're not going to get a big favorite. I think you can go a ton of different ways. Let's move on. We talked about that one a lot, so we'll try and zip through a couple more of these a little quicker. Race 7, we have the AGS Music City Stakes. We're going 6.5 on the turf again. I'll say it one more time. Purse of $2 million. We have a field of 12 with how many? 4 also eligibles. And again, we have a very lukewarm favorite in the number 9 Pounce with Dylan Davis, who was on fire at Saratoga. Let's see where we are going here. You are going with that 12, with the 12, not that 12. You are going with the 12. Vivez-vous, I guess, and I'm going with the 2, but let's jump into it. Tell me what you like about this 12 horse. Vivez-vous, I should have listened to the race again before we got on here, but it's something like that.
I would say you have it right, but I would say Vivez-vous.
Vivez-vous, all right.
Yeah, coming out of the same race as Pounce, Pounce definitely got the jump, because pretty much everything Dylan Davis did at Saratoga was the right move. Pounce was just a little in front and that was a pretty good race, that Lake George. But I do think this horse, Vivez-vous, we're going to call her, ran well. Now They are all cutting back off of that race, Pete. There's Chad's cutting a horse back all the way from 1.125 to 6.5. So
Yeah.
that's a factor. If you've been watching, and I haven't watched every race, but it seems like Speed is doing better than normal. I know I saw Luis Saez, one of the few races I watched today. Luis Saez took a whatever 10, 12 to 1 shot, wire to wire. 2 turns, by the way.
Yeah.
I think it might have been 1 5/16. Anyway, I thought this horse ran well. I do think there will be some pace to close into. I did also like the 8 coming out of that Hall of Fame race.
Let me just show the pace real quick.
That was a filly. That was a filly running against the boys at Saratoga, and I thought she ran well.
Which one?
The 8 Buttercream Babe.
8, yes, Buttercream.
I just saw the time form. They're looking at front runners. So, what's the 3 went gate to wire up at Woodbine every step of the way. Is she that good that she can transform that here? If it's going to be a race for front runners, you got to look at a horse like that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping that, this Vive Vuve, Pete, if you look at her first race in the U.S., she actually led coming home. And then it seems after that, they went to this deep closing style, although in the Wonder again at Aqueduct, she was more mid-pack. So, Tyler, cold or not, he rides there very well. And I'm going to try to hopefully have him get her the trip she needs.
Yeah, Sisterson, if people could see my scribble notes on the screen there, 0 for 24, 2 for 24 in the money only at Kentucky Down. So he did get a third last week, if I remember. I can't remember the horse. He got a third. I think it was Ocean something. It might have been the horse, one of the horses Howard liked. So, a little positive energy for Jack there. But, yeah, that was the thing. And the post, it's anytime you're this far outside, I think – you talked about the Wonder again. The one weird thing sometimes is in a small field, you wonder, was it the field that kept the horse close because it was small, or were they trying to be more tactical? I always have a hard time gauging that, whether that was indicative of them trying something new, or it was just, hey, there's only 6. You have to be in front of somebody, or you can only be behind so many when it's a short field. I struggle with that every once in a while. Let's jump up. So I have the 2. I'll go to my horse here. So I have the 2 Kyrou on top with Jose Ortiz for Cherie DeVoe. This was just a horse. So again, one thing I always like is you come back, especially from 2 to 3, even 3 to 4. We notice this a lot when a horse just starts improving. And this horse came back, ran in the Appalachian, wasn't very good. It was a pretty good field, but it was going a mile. They cut back to the sprint. Runs a nice second to Pipsy, who that was the Pipsy race that was close, but was a little boxed in, didn't have room late. They give the horse a little bit of a break, comes back, runs well again, this time a little shorter, going 5.5, but the figures are improving, the time form is improving, the buyer's improving. I just think this horse might just be better and might just be better sprinting. She was a little bumped down the lane in the last 2. It wasn't big enough to where we need to show the replay, but I just didn't think she got the cleanest of runs. And I'm looking at her going at a 6 to 1 price. If we can get that, I think she's a horse that's on the up, and she was right there with other horses in this field already. So at a 6 to 1 price, I feel like that's a good spot. You have this horse in third. You want to add anything? Any other?
Yeah, I have in my notes, to play this horse to make the board, but probably at least a B on my grid. Okay. I gave this horse serious consideration. I didn't think that was the greatest field last time, but I thought that she ran very well, as you so eloquently spelled it out. I think we talked. I'm not sure when it was it Travers Week or not, but I am a huge Cherie DeVoe fan as a trainer.
Me too. Yes.
I not only just as a trainer, she's very good, very accommodating with us. I spent some time at her barn 2 days of Travers Week. I just think her potential's unlimited. She does well with Jose Ortiz. So yeah, I think this horse is a definite use, Pete. I think you're right on to something.
Excellent. And the one I'll shout out to, the one, no pun intended there, or whatever that's called. Crown Imperial, 30-1 morning line. This is the horse I have second. And this was sort of has lost a bunch to a bunch of these horses, although it did beat your 8, Buttercream Babe, way back here at Kentucky Downs, which again, we talk about it. You go back here, 6.5 furlongs, beats Buttercream Babe, who's a lower price horse in here. Only race here, closed from the back. Again, I don't know if there's a ton of pace, so you'd want to be a little closer, which she has been doing. But she ran her lifetime buyer top. So this is one of those horses that was doing really well. And you could see here at the start of her career when she was sprinting first, second, third, second, first. And you're talking all stakes races there. Then they get a little bit greedy, like, they're wont to do. They go to the Jessamine. She runs fine. Then she takes time off, comes back. They put her at a mile again. She's not so great. Not so great again. And then she's just sort of running in place a little bit, not looking great. They cut her back. She runs okay. She ran okay last time, but it was going 5.5, trying to close into a slow pace. So my thought is here, if we can get a little bit more pace, we're getting a little bit of extra distance. She had a really nice bullet work here. I'm thinking this horse just might be better sprinting, and at 30-1, I'll take a shot, even if it's just like a hit the board kind of horse. But it's also Kentucky Downs where anything can happen. You get some wild bombs in some of these. So this is one that just caught my eye because I think maybe she's doing what she wants to be doing, and hopefully we can get a little bit more pace than she got last time.
Yeah, those are all fair points. I mean, she did run really, really bad in the Penn Oaks, but to your point, that was a mile, a 2-turn mile, and this is a 1-turn with. Well, they should call it 2 turns because first you have to go right, and then you make the turn.
Yeah, it's a drunken 1-turn basically. Yeah. It's like I can't really walk it straight, but I'm gonna get there.
But yeah, and she does have a win over the track, which we just talked about.
Yeah.
And she has a really good second in a stakes at Saratoga last year. So, and John Ortiz is, en fuego again.
Yeah.
Certainly was at Saratoga.
At Saratoga for sure.
So, yeah, I mean, I got plenty of 30-1 shots coming, Pete. I could only pick so many of them.
I know. That's I was trying to squeeze a few in because I see too many of them. I'm like, I got to start putting some of these on my tickets because, and all hell breaks loose at this joint. All right, unless you have anybody else here, we'll move on to the next one. All right. Next, we will move on to the 8th, the Mint Million Stakes, another grade 3. We're going a mile on the turf, another like cheap 2 million we're giving away here. We have a pretty solid field of 11. And again, we have a relatively soft favorite, the number 10, Ancient Rome at 5-2. Let's see where Paul is going. Let's see where I am going. Paul and I, this is one where we are alike. We aren't being very creative. We are going with the 10, the favorite, Ancient Rome. Why don't you kick us off? Tell us what you like about this one.
Well, you said you like the defending champs, Pete, so there's one angle.
Yes, I love that.
And this horse ran well last time in the Million. That's the name of the race. People keep mispronouncing the name of that race. The race is called just the Million. I don't know what ARL. Always really lousy to close the track. Always really lousy Million.
Early rant for Paul. Don't forget, stick around later. We'll have Paul's rant at the end of the show.
But she, we're going to see integration later in this card, Pete. And in Nation's Pride, I don't think needs any introduction.
No.
That was a good effort at Colonial. So yeah, I think that I'm going to be probably more favoring U.S. horses than I typically would in this sequence, although I've just picked my second Euro.
I was going to say, are you sure? We don't have that many races left.
I don't think there are slam dunks, put it that way, because I did the horse that you picked second and I picked third. I thought Talk of the Nation ran really well in that Million.
By the way,
And
I'm
I
on the
think
show. You talked about the pace. I wanted to bring up the pace projector here. We see the 11. I forget who is who here. The 11 is who? Give me. Oh, Goliad.
Goliad,
That's right.
yeah,
Goliad is pure speed and strong quality, who has no other choice. I mean, strong quality's only good races, and even his bad races are on the lead. So we expect at least those two will be out there. So for any horse or anyone you like that's coming from off the pace, I think you should get something to close into here. And we assume that's what, just to hit on, just to close off Ancient Rome, we assume that's what he'll be doing. That's where he comes from. Can I
yes,
throw one thing at you that I looked at? Because I just wasn't, I have to look up the post positions at the configurations. I never know which ones are good, which ones are bad. The 7+ from the 7 post position out during this meet, 0 for 47 wins. And there are some, you see on my screen, I have 7, 8, 10. All 3 of my horses are in the 7+. So obviously I don't listen to that because I'm maybe an idiot, but just wanted to point that out for everyone. At this configuration, the outside posts have not been winning races. So I don't know. Do you care about stuff like that? How much credence do you put in things like that?
I mean, ironically, Pete, I would tend to put less credence in it here at this track probably than any other track,
You would
right?
think, right? It's weird, right? I would think so too. I would think so, but who knows? Again, the one funny thing, Charlie Hill's 1 for 7 in the U.S., but his one win did come here at Kentucky Downs, obviously with this
This
horse
horse.
last year, and it was his only. I think it was his only run at Kentucky Downs out of the 7. So he's 1 for 1 here. So that's all that matters. Hey, we got Jim Pillars popping in. Hello, Jim.
Jim
Great friend of the
Pillars.
show. Yeah.
Jim Pillars. I heard a rumor, Pete. I heard a
Uh-oh.
rumor that Jim Pillars had a busy day on Monday, but he had enough time to read the Saratoga Power Plays. And I heard that he made some of those, you put a few bets in before you go out the door type of thing.
I like those.
And I heard when he came back in the door, there was a big pile of money
There's a
waiting.
lot of green up
I
in
can't
that side.
confirm. I can't confirm. I have heard that.
Jim, if you want to put that in the chat, or if hopefully he
Jim
told
is the best, by the
hopefully
way.
he told the
The
wife,
best.
and hopefully he told the wife, and she's not finding out on the show here, but we shall see.
But Pete, I think that the time form that you put up,
Yeah,
I do think that is going to play into the hands of the Euros because we got to figure that they're coming from behind, right?
yeah, you would think so.
I mean, the 8. Oh, I talked about Talk of the Nation, but he's definitely forward. So anything resembling a really hot contested pace would not be to his benefit. I'm not sure that this Aiden horse, whom I did pick second.
Wait, real quick before we go to the other horse, I just want to Paul put this in there. Goliad just ran on September 1st. I don't know if that means he's coming back. He's going to scratch. We're not sure what he's going to do. We're talking 6 days. We shall see if he doesn't run. That's a great point by Paul. Thank you for mentioning it. If he doesn't run for some reason, it changes maybe the pace a little bit because we're relying on him for a little bit of the pace. But just wanted to point that out before we go on to the other one. So like anything, one thing to watch for, and everybody who probably listens to this knows this, but watch it because I'm bad at this sometimes. When there are scratches, watch what it does to the pace because you might have handicapped a fast pace and the speed scratches or vice versa. So it's always a good thing to keep an eye on. So thank you, Paul. Paul Conlon.
I hope he does not scratch, Pete.
Me too. I hope not either.
Because Pratt or no Pratt, I think this horse has no chance in this race, especially from out there. And he will take some Pratt money. And he is coming off a win at Kentucky Downs, albeit 5 days ago. So I'm going to be rooting for the non-scratch here.
I mean, $2 million's a good reason to run your horse back, I think. So you never know. Why don't you talk about you were talking about Talk of the Nation when I interrupted you. Why don't you jump back in on Talk of the Nation? You have this horse in third. I have this horse in second. Go ahead. You were saying some stuff. We got Irad and
I just think what I was saying, Pete, is I think the horse is forward. There's a horse who would really benefit from the scratch of the 11. And I'm going to check, Pete, if I give me 1 second.
Please.
I am going to check to see if our friend Mr. Mandela does this at all.
I will say while you look, Todd Pletcher.
Richard Mandela has not started a horse on 7 days or less rest in the last 5 years.
Oh, okay. He did have that was for who? That was Goliath. Was that Goliath?
Goliad.
He had. Did I pick? I had that he had 2 straight wins under 14 days, but never under 10. That was the note because I remember I looked that up as well.
Yeah.
So
I
he
just
was,
did 1 to 7
yeah,
because
yeah,
this
that's
was
what I
so.
think I did. But here we go. Here you go, Paul. Jim Pilar's. I'd like to thank Paul. His conviction on the 11 Child of the Moon in race 11 Monday on the Saratoga Morning Show convinced me to play the pick 5, which I hit for $1 and pushed me to positive on the meet. That's what I'm talking about, Jim.
So I also hit it for $1, Pete, and it pushed me to half as negative on the meet.
Well, you know.
But
That's all
you
right.
know
It
what?
doesn't as long as you're
Leaves a
going
good
up.
taste in your mouth, doesn't it?
As long as you're going up. Yeah, that's the way I look at it. As long as you're going up, it's positive. We're optimists on this show. We're not negative on this show.
But Pete, you took Talk of the Nation second, so you must have been thinking the same way.
I did. I think it's just he's just a good horse. He's tactical, and again, we I hate to harp on it, but we talk about who's in the PPs here. You got in the million, Nation's Pride, Integration, again, Ancient Rome, who's the other horse we like. Carl Spackler lost to Ice Chocolato's a nice horse. Mysterious Knight, who I think is Mysterious Knight, the one that's the Charlie Appleby horse, if I
I
remember
believe so.
correctly. And then another loss to Carl Spackler, who's been really good. So I just think this is a horse that's been running against the best, is really tactical. Even if there is the speed between the Goliad and strong quality, I think Talk of the Nation can sit. We see some races back here where he was able to pass horses. So I don't think he's a need the lead type, which is nice. He could sit a really perfect trip. Again, Pletcher, 2 for 29 at Kentucky Downs. I don't know what he did today. These were as of the other day. So but still, and Talk of the Nation has a win over the track in the Gun Runner here with a 97 buyer and a 130 time form. I forgot to mention that. He had a 130 time form last time I was here, which is basically like a 110 buyer. So that was a monster race. So if he just loves this course, who the hell knows? He could just be he could be a nice play at 4-1. All right, let's talk real quick and then we'll wrap it up. You have the 2 Mountain Bear for Aidan O'Brien, so we'll talk about that one. You like this one as a win contender, or again, is this just a horse that looks like is going to be rolling late and is a nice board horse, or you think an actual solid win contender?
Well, I'll tell you, he was rolling late in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf last year. Did not get to unquestionable, but ran a good second. So I do like the fact that you do. Although the shipping has become much easier. I've talked to Aiden's assistants about this several times, and Aiden himself actually. It's not the production it used to be, but it is still good to see a horse, Pete, who has shipped over successfully.
Yeah,
which this horse has done. Now he is, he has not won this year. Although he ran 7th, but the fact that Aiden ran him in the Guineas
yeah,
shows the confidence level. I mean that's as you know one of their classics over there. I don't know. He gets the Tory, the Italian riding for the Irishman. Pete, you got to love that.
I like that. Yes,
and I just think that I just always assume that whatever the distance is with these Euros, it's not going to be an issue. And a mile is certainly looks like right up this horse's alley. So I have I'm looking at my PPs, Pete. I have B/A.
Okay.
So haven't quite made the decision yet. But it's going to be one of those two, Pete.
I mean, it's hard to leave Aiden off when you don't want to lose a turf race to an Aidan O'Brien horse. Not necessarily has to be an A, but you don't want to lose. Then you feel like an idiot, right? You're like, I can't believe I didn't put this horse who has some experience here. And we know
that 10-1, Pete, especially, right?
Well, that's the thing. If this horse pays 20, I mean, I'm assuming he'll get bet just from the name. But if somehow this horse pays $20 and spices up the pick 5 and you don't have it, then you feel like a moron. So I'm with you on here. Let's move on. You have anybody else here? You good?
Nope.
Emmanuel's a horse I usually like, but he's just been letting me down. And again, he's been running against some top quality. He moves to Maker, who Maker has been awful. since he's been. I think this meet he's just been awful in general. First after trainer start and graded stakes on turf over 13. So he's got a million things going against him for a horse that I know I've picked on this show unsuccessfully in a few of these races. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is the race 9, the Aristocrat Franklin Simpson Stakes, grade 1. $2 million purse going 6.5, obviously on the turf. We have a main body field of 12. We have 4 also entered. And again, like I hate to keep repeating myself, we have a very soft favorite, 4-1, Mansa Musa, with Alvarado, your guy, and Mott, your guy. So let's see where you went. You went with the 4 yellow card. I am going with the 10 Howard Wolowitz. Let's see what we like. What do you like about this 4-horse yellow card? Hope you don't get
this
a
is the
yellow card.
first. This is the first of 2 kind of off the wall opinions for me. Yeah, I have one coming in the 11th race as well. I may have one in the next race too, for all I know, because I know I got. No, I don't. I think I had a moment of clarity in between.
In the
but
next one.
yeah, I mean, this is in a card full of tough races, Pete. I think you could make a cogent argument that this is the toughest.
I couldn't come up. I was a mess in this race. Let me see. People could see on the screen. I had 5 A's, 3 B's, and I tossed 4 horses. I felt I did not feel good. I don't think about any of the horses that I chose. So I was all over the place in this one. So I'm with you.
Yeah, so that Mahoney is a listed stakes race, so I'm not going to get carried away with that. Named after, by the way, Pete, after the Mahoney family, who were pretty much the father of parimutuel wagering machines
Oh,
in
I didn't
this
know that.
country.
That's awesome.
I'm a font of useless information, Pete. You know that.
I mean, this is why we have you on. I mean, just to do this.
Anyway,
right?
the horse really did, though, listed stakes or not, he really did have a miserable trip in that race. I think the 90 buyer in the race before when he won at Churchill, I think a 90 in this race, Pete, puts you smack dab in the mix.
Yeah, right in the mix.
You could go back and watch that Mahoney race. Howard Wolowitz, the 10, is coming out of that race. He also in that race got try to come up the rail. You may want to show the stretch of that race.
Yeah,
Pete,
I'm trying.
There was a lot of shit going on. Howard Wolowitz, I believe, was the 2.
It's the 2.
And my guy, yellow card, was the 3, I believe.
The 3.
So if Wolowitz is the 2 on the rail, jockey's wearing dark, and things are going to close down on him at some point.
Yeah,
and then there's where's my 3?
Right here, right?
Yeah, 3's in the red cap. But look at that 2.
Yeah, the 2.
All of a sudden now there's a wall. Watch the jock, right?
The jock, right a little bit before that, stood up a little bit.
Yeah, so which led me to almost pick him, Pete, to be honest with you. But then I just thought the 4 ran okay, and the 10 is morning line 9-2, and the 4 is morning line 15-1. And let's all send. Should we start a GoFundMe to buy Nick Tamro a bottle of wine? Can you imagine having to make the morning line for this race, Pete?
Oh God!
If I hear one person criticize whatever, I don't care what happens with the betting. This is an impossible morning line to make.
Yes, these races are crazy. They're so tough too, because you get the horses that are good here, and you're like, do you lower the morning line? Because I don't know if people bet that, but it may be what moves them up on the track. But I don't know if that's what people are going to bet. So to make the morning line to try and be representative of the public, I think it's so tough. I wouldn't want to make the morning. I wouldn't want to make the morning line anywhere, but especially here for sure. Oh, here we go. We got a nice question from Gemini. Yellow card, need lacing.
Could be. That's a fair. Yep. That Pete, you bring that up all the time, and that's a fair question.
Yeah, it's tough when I don't like when because it wasn't a terrible race, but there wasn't a punch at the end, and I don't know if that has the effect. So it's hard to know there. Let's go down. So you have the 10 Howard Wolowitz, who we were just talking about. By the way, for any Big Bang Theory fans, I like the Big Bang Theory a little bit. I know that's what Howard Wolowitz is from. So I have the 10 on top. You have the 10 in second. Partially, here's what a couple of things I like. One, this is a funny horse. Tried all three surfaces, 3 starts, touched all 3 surfaces. Says, you know what? Let's give them all a shot. The debut was god awful. There was some problems early, and it was just out of it, and then was just done. Give the horse a little bit time off. Say, let's try the synth out. Rolls by 7, puts him. Jose D'Angelo puts him in the Mahoney. Like you said, the thing that I had the question was I couldn't tell if that little sort of stutter, the little pull up that he had, did that cost him a better position? Was he actually making a good enough move? I couldn't tell. Like I think sometimes we overrate trouble every once in a while where we're like, oh, this horse had trouble. He probably would have done well. Really? I don't know all the time if that means that. So I had a hard time with it, but it was just enough where I was like, now we're getting the change to IRAD. I think if this horse gets a similar trip, I don't think IRAD is going to be so apprehensive about getting his way through a couple horses if he needs to. He got the lifetime time form top. His buyer wasn't as good, but he's moving forward from a time form perspective. And this is something I harp on all the time. He was working well. He had the nice bullet. He had a nice solid sort of maintenance work going in last time. I thought he ran pretty well, even though he finished 4th. And then he comes out, fires another bullet, holding the form. I really like that. So I think this is a horse that's got a little bit more upside. He's only got the 3 races. I think there's still up and up to go with him. What are your thoughts? You have him in second. So
yeah,
you agree?
As I said, Pete, I was very close to picking him.
Matt Miller agrees with us, so we must be on the right track here.
Yeah.
Although the Iran tax, I didn't know that was a thing. Maybe he means the Irad tax. I didn't know Iran
let's
was
hope
taxing
so.
our horses now. But I'm with you. Thank you.
No, I definitely, Pete. The horse is a straight A for me, and as I said, I really came down to it. And this is maybe I was starting to get a little punch drunk last night when I was doing this, but you think that the whole Kentucky Downs aura is in your mind, right? Although it really hasn't been this year like, a series of bombs, has it?
No, but they pop up,
year.
It feels like in every sequence you get one that blows it up, and that's all you need. Yeah, that's all you need, right? If you can,
I will tell you this, folks. If you can navigate this pick 5, you are going to get paid. That is a guarantee. That this is not a chalkable, outable pick 5.
No, God, no. I think this is one where I wouldn't be afraid to go a little bit deeper. You could spend some money, I think, on a Kentucky. Even if you're doing a caveman, I think you could spend some money here because I don't even think, even if you get lower price horses, the fields are so deep, the favorites are so not short that I think you're going to get paid no matter what. Let's hit a couple more real quick before we move on to the next one. We both have the 8. Please advise. You have them in 3rd. I have them in 3rd. Picks up Pratt again, comes out of that race, the Hall of Fame against Neat, has lost to Neat in the last 2. Was this a 8-1 shot? Was this a horse you have on the A line, B line? Where are you looking at this one?
Yeah, I would say B or C, but certainly a board horse. I don't have them, but I'm pretty sure this horse is scores well on the Thoroughgraph. I think I heard Jeff Franklin on with Steve Bick today talking about this horse on the sheets as being one of their top picks scorers. I just don't use them, but that really wasn't that was a pretty good race last time. Neat got a great ride from Junior and ran very well. Laganos nearly grabbed that race. A lot of people liked him. He nearly grabbed that race, and Neat caught him late. Yeah, I think this, again, on the pick 5, in a sequence like this, he might end up a C just because you got to make some decisions, although he's probably more a B. He probably should be more a B than a C.
I think the question with him is he I had a hard time figuring out if I think he's really good enough to win the race, or if I think he could run well. He's got the time there. I don't remember if I showed the time form for this one. I don't think I did. I apologize.
No,
We have a
fast
fast
pace.
and you see there's a lot of horses all sort of within striking distance here. So if this one just heats up and gets a little wild, this horse has the one thing. We don't show this that much, but I like that they do this. I actually keep this up when I'm handicapping, because then I can sort of just gauge where each horse is going to be. You see, we have the 13 and the 14 aren't in the main body. If they get in, they'll inject even more speed, but even without them, we have Joe Shiesty. We got a bunch of 110 plus, 115 plus. So I think there could be speed. And a horse like that the ones where the speed and it falls apart, that's the one where sometimes you can get the wild payout because somebody just closes from the clouds, right?
Definitely.
Anything else on that one? The only thing I'll mention, I had in my second spot, the 6-horse Apollo 10, Clement. I hasn't gone this far yet. What are we going? 6? Did I say 6.5? I forgot. Yes, 6.5.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Yeah.
So we're going 6.5. In the last one, again, it wasn't big enough to show. It was the Mahoney race. I think this horse steadied a bit as well. I didn't think it was able to go by because he had a really good trip. He just steadied a bit late, but I thought he had the trip and could have run a little better. But again, he's tactical as long as he doesn't get mixed up in whatever, too close to the speed up front. I think he could be dangerous. He's another one who on the grass has been steadily improving a little bit, at least from a buyer standpoint. Now you're getting the extra furlong. We'll see what he can do. Let's move on to the next one. We'll see. This is the closeout leg of that middle pick 5 that we're talking about. Race 10, the FanDuel TV Kentucky Turf Cup, a grade 2, another cool 2 million. We're going 1.5 miles on the turf. We have 11 horses. And this is one where we actually have a pretty decent sized favorite. The number 2 Integration at 8-5. Let's see if either Paul or I are going with Integration. Neither of us are. We are going to the outside. What a surprise for Paul. Going with the 11.
I forget what I said about being, I don't know what I was thinking, being anti-Euro. I picked every one of them.
I think, I think you need to. We'll cut that out in post. If we only had a post, we could cut that out. But we'll cut that out for the West Coast feed later. But go ahead. What do you like about this one?
Well, first of all, Peter, I do think Integration is going to be a tough customer.
Yeah, and we will definitely we'll zip up to him after this since he's the big fan.
This horse, Pete, it looks like has gotten better as Aiden has run him longer. So therefore, I think that this stretch out, 1.5 miles is it's still that the 12 furlongs is 12 furlongs, and on this course. It's probably more like 12 and a half,
2,
right?
Yeah, it feels like 2 going on this one, I think.
But this horse was very close to Bellum Justum, which was a kind of a rock solid winner on last Saturday.
Yeah,
on that card, real good horse for Andrew Balding. So
then Pete Stromberg, who actually didn't run great, but also ran on Saturday in I don't know if it was the same race. And then quick,
he did. I had him. I used him in a reverse try key. Needed him to run second or third. He did not.
I didn't like him for some reason. I can't remember why. And then just for people who don't, this horse here, I had some notes here, but they erase for. I have a weird thing where my notes on foreign horses erase sometimes. I don't have any idea why, but I even asked DRF about it, and they said we can't reproduce that error. I'm like, oh, it must just be me. But here in the King Edward, this horse. Calendagan, I don't remember how to pronounce it, is the one who just ran second, a very nice second to City of Troy in the Juddmonte. So even though this horse didn't run a lick in that race, was still obviously against some high quality in a Group 2. But go ahead. Sorry, I think I cut you off.
Well, that's a Group 2 in name only. Those. Yeah, the majority of those Ascot races probably could be Group 1s. Right?
Oh yeah, yes, especially compared to some of our races.
And again, Pete, I really, and I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to bet the 11, but Do I want the 2 at 8-5 over the 11 at 4-1? No.
No.
Now I think the 2 as well. I'm kind of glad. Kendrick rode this horse very well. Won the Virginia Derby. Won the Hill Prince. Unfortunately got taken off the horse. And the horse came back and didn't run terribly. Ran against some good horses. Was there but couldn't win. And then his Yankee comes back at Colonial and wins the Million Preview, and then runs second in the Million. That's the name of the race, the Million.
Yes.
Runs second to Nation's Pride. So absolutely no issues with the 2. This is a really good shug horse, but value does play a part in this game, and Nick is very good at the morning line, and I just think even if I got like 3-1 on this 11, I would take that. Matt Miller disagrees with me.
Take integration all the way down to
3-2, and
yep.
Again, I have no issues with integration. But he ran very well and lost to a Euro last time. It could happen again.
Yeah. The only thing on integration, again, if you're trying to knock a favorite, his wins, he's got 4 wins, and 3 of them and his second in the Million all came at Colonial, which he seems to love. So could he be a horse for course there and not as good everywhere else? He did have the nice win in the Hill Prince, but he was a pretty big favorite back then, and that was last year. So my only concern, again, he has run great. I mean, he's 3 for 4 with a second in Nation's Pride with Kendrick up, like you said. Shug 1 for 17, 12 furlong and up, graded stakes on turf. Again, all I try and do is see if there's anything you can find that could be a knock on what's going to be a horse. Matt Miller, but in fairness, even if 3-2, if you feel there's better value elsewhere, then I'd pursue that. That makes perfect sense. Let's go to, you have the 7, and then we'll hit my 4. You have the 7, Tawny Port, who, feels like he's been knocking around in these races that we talk about forever. So again, is this the horse? He doesn't love to win a lot of races. Right. So do you look at him as a win contender, or is he just a board?
Yep. He's a board. Ever since he moved from Cox to Clement and Christoph put him on turf, obviously that was the right move. He's only been off the board twice, and one time was 4th and one was 5th. Ran, the Monmouth race was kind of shows you that he's not really a winner, because he did take the lead in that race and then got caught very late. I mean, that was a blanket finish. Same thing, though. No real excuse in the United Nations, but right there, he's the type of horse, Pete. If he wins, are you going to be shocked? No. And I think probably in my sequence, I'm putting a C on my screen right now. So if I'm lucky enough to be alive to A's, I'd have him. But he is. I think he is tough to support on the top line.
I don't really have anything else to add. He's just tough in that respect. You see here, since they moved him to the turf, he's 1 for 9 wins, but he's hit the board 6 out of the 9. So he's always right there. He just, for some reason, just doesn't have that finishing gear where someone always runs a little bit of a better race than him. But again, if you're doing sort of a reverse try key kind of thing, and you like some prices and you think some prices could hit the board, he's one of those horses. He's going to be there. He always runs his race. So I think in a case like that, he's a pretty decent play. The only one I'll touch on, I had this horse in second and almost put him on top. Get Smoking, 12-1 for Cassie, who's been pretty ice cold at the meet as well. He's 1 for 1 at Kentucky Downs, which obviously we've talked about that a bunch. He went the 1.5 miles. He won here. He won this race, obviously, in 23. So we talked about, I love the returning champ. But in this case, it's not just because they're the returning champ. It's because they have experience being successful at this track and at the configuration. And we know that that's a thing. So he did that. He wins this race, and then he's on the shelf from September of 23 all the way to June of 24. They put him on the synth for the first time. gets on the lead like he wants, like he's known to do. He gets run down. Whatever. That was off a long layoff. Then they put him in the United Nations. He's 9-1. He gets on the lead at a mile and 3/8, and he holds. And that was a quick lead too. He had, you could see here, the red coated fractions. So he was, even though he was up, it was one of those where he went up and went a little faster than maybe he should, but still had the guts to hang on. So I'm like, I know he's going to be in the mix. It's just a point of whether he holds. And when we see in my best bets later, he comes up prominent in my best bets. Any thoughts on this one? What do you look at him as just one of those be in the mix from a speed standpoint and then fade, or just no love for him at all?
Yeah, Pete, if I'm being honest, Pete, and you know I'm an honest guy, I think he might need a little assistance to get that last quarter mile.
I can
Well,
see it.
certainly the last eighth of. Now I know he went 3/8 last time, so it's only an eighth, but he was getting caught. Unless he gets out and is just allowed to do whatever the hell he wants. Did you bring up time for him, Pete?
I just did. Yeah, sorry. I'll bring it up again. Yeah, let me bring it up again. So
yeah,
he's got a lead, but they're anticipating it to be pressed. Yeah, so the 8 and the 5. So we have Balladeer and Sugoi, who are actually, I don't mind Sugoi as a horse. I just think they're not on his level. So if he can get out and get ahead of them, I think he can be the pace. And as long as he doesn't go nuts, I think he could be tough late. But I agree.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Pete. Sugoi bothers me a little bit.
In terms of wanting to use, you mean, with Iran?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'll be, if I were looking for a horse to use kind of underneath, I would be using a 5 before the 4.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I just think he's coming out of a better race. You get Irad. They're both going to be prices, so I'm not trying to talk anyone off the price.
No.
But
Maker's been
has won at a mile and a half.
Yeah.
Sugoi, if you get into his PPs, he won that Churchill race. That's when Churchill used to run on turf. He won that Churchill race. So, again, it's tough sledding, but I do think that if you were playing caveman, Pete, which I don't think I will be, I think you could get by with the 2 and 11.
You think
I really
so?
do.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably go. I'm with you. I think you're probably okay there. Although Matt said he was starting to like integration less and less as we went through. But that's a decision you have to make in a field like this. Do you trust the favorites enough to just go skinny? Or do you think all hell can break loose? And is there enough of a knock on these horses on the top?
No, and I wouldn't, I don't know that I'd get off integration. And the reason is, while we could make all the points we made, I do still think there's a finite number of horses who are going to win. So when we're talking about all these other horses and their potential, like the 5 I talked about, probably more as a board horse. If I were thinking about your 4, it would be more of a board horse. Tawny Port is the epitome of a board horse. I do think that there's, it's pretty narrow on the top line.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you there. All right, let's go to so this is a tough one though. So you're going skinny to close it out. So you're hopefully in your if you were doing a caveman in the final leg of what could be a pricey payout, pick 5. You'd see if you can be happy with integration and Chief Little Rock there. But I guess we'll see. So we'll go to the last one, race 11, the Ainsworth Turf Sprint Stakes. We're going 6 furlongs. Excuse me, another purse of $2 million. We have the main body of the field is 12. We have 1 also eligible, and we have a big favorite here at 6-5, which I actually thought was a little higher than I expected. The 4 Cogburn for Asmussen or Irad. Let's see if we are both going with the 4. We are not, and I don't even see the 4 on the screen for Paul. So we're going to go straight to you, my friend here. What are we thinking here? Just tossing Cogburn? Let's talk Cogburn first, then we'll talk about your top choice, just because we'll start with the big favorite. Would you toss him just because he had that race, which wasn't as great here at Kentucky Downs? Or the distance, or what will it be? What
Well, first
makes
of
you
all, in
think
my
that?
play, I won't be tossing,
Yes.
quote unquote,
Would
tossing.
you put him on the A line?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would call it a defensive A.
Okay.
Uh,
We'll clarify that for sure.
and,
Well,
I,
he
and I'm
is
going
the
to tell you why. The reason is this, Pete. And I'm not being hypocritical, but first of all, this is out of the sequence, by the way.
yeah.
So, but
But
if
for
I
the
were in the other
degenerate pick
sequence,
5 sequence, the
right,
degenerate sequence, yes.
and the reason I would include a horse like this, who is not one of my top picks, is if I get a 20-1 seahorse to win an earlier leg,
Yeah.
right? Now, now I don't care who wins the other races. If I
Yeah.
got a 20-1 shot in, and I
Yeah.
want to have, I want to have the best turf sprinter in America.
Yeah.
Having said that, the schedule is off on this horse. In case people
Yeah. Talk
forget,
about that,
this
please.
horse was entered in the Troy to be run at Saratoga on Whitney Day. The Troy was one of the races canceled that day when they had during the card come off the turf because of the weather. It was run, I believe it might have been Friday. It was run as an off the turf race on Sunday, maybe. I should know this. I lived through it, Pete. The Troy was canceled once, and when they brought it back, it was rained off the turf.
Yeah.
Asterson thought seriously about keeping this horse in because, as you can see from the PPs, the horse is fine on dirt. The horse ran 8 times on dirt, 3 wins in 2 seconds. He opted not to, which you understand. He's got what people believe is the best turf sprinter in the country. But, now that was a month ago,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not a big fan of when horses get taken off their plan. And this was through the fault of no one, by the way. This was the weather.
Yes.
Everyone did the right thing. Saratoga did the right thing. But so I think if you're ever going to try to beat a horse like this, who is a speedball on turf, I want to do it in the hills and valleys in Western Kentucky as opposed to the flat, hard turf of Del Mar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I think this horse has a much better chance at getting beat today, Saturday, than he does on the first Saturday in November.
Yeah.
To be very honest with you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I brought the time form up.
Telling.
And the time form here, you see, he doesn't have like a clear, there's speed to the outside. And even from a time, we'll look at it here too, from a time form standpoint, again, the 13 probably won't be in, but you got Coppola's a little faster in theory. No Balls is a funny one because No Balls has actually been coming off the pace lately, but there is enough speed in here that somebody could get up there. I mean, Cogburn is fast. He might just run them off their feet, but there is, in theory, some speed in here that can be detrimental to him.
Right. So the Troy Pete, just so I'm to be clear, ended up being run on August 10th.
Okay.
As opposed to August 3rd or 4th, whenever it was originally scheduled.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, Pete. I've really come. I was not the biggest believer in No Balls, but I think he's a tough cookie.
No Balls is which number? What number is he?
10.
10, right?
10.
Okay, there we go.
I think he's a tough cookie.
Yeah, I have him in second. You have him in third. I mean, he is the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint champion last year. Then he came back again. He was off for whatever that is, 9 months basically. Came back, just didn't have the punch there, going the 5.5 and this optional claimer 80. But that obviously was a tune-up for this race, you assume, or wherever they were pointing. I like the fact that he had shown more versatility because when he was running well here, he was pure speed. He was go to the lead and that's it. These last two, even this one, he showed some versatility. He was able to come off the pace. We'll see if that, we'll see if he can do that into what potentially could be a hot pace. It could set up nicely for him.
Yeah, well, certainly he was pretty much all speed until they got to the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, and he came from mid pack and won.
Yeah, that
Right.
sucked.
So
I needed Big Invasion, pretty big to close out
yeah, he
whatever
got
sequence
himself
that was.
straightened out the other day.
Yeah.
Then you look at here's another wild card. You want to talk about liking defending
Well,
champs, Pete? How
let's
about
go
the?
to your top pick at 30-1,
Oh
which you
yeah,
have,
okay. Let's
and
talk about
I
that.
have in third here. So let's do that first.
Yeah, well, then we'll get to the. Okay, so 30-1. This horse ran in that Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint up the track. Okay. Um,
But he
I
was out
just
of it
think
early.
he was out of it
He
early.
was out of it early, and it was done.
He has some speed numbers. The best race of his career was at Kentucky Downs.
Yeah.
I
A little
believe the
while
10.
ago, unfortunately, but
It was a
yes.
long while ago, Pete. I
Yes.
mean, I didn't have hair, but it was still a long time ago. But Pete, at Kentucky Downs last year, he's not that far off from that number, right?
No.
99. And look, if Cogburn runs his race and is going to put up a 108, 109,
Yeah.
it's all this is going to be just blather, right? He's going to win. But if Cogburn is going to slip up, I kept looking at this horse, and
Well,
you
and
stop
here
by
is
saying, "Oh, I'm going to."
Cogburn slipping up in that race, so it's not.
Yeah, so he said, "I'm going to use this horse on the board," and then I looked, and Rusty Arnold is not terrible. He's double digits anyway, 11% off a 180 to 360 layoff, which this is.
Well, you see on the screen there, Rusty, 4 for 11 wins, 6 for 11 in the money in stakes sprint races at Kentucky Downs. So he likes it here.
Oh, he spots his horses. He shipped a maiden up to Saratoga to win a stakes race in the last week. So he spots them. I think in this 6 furlong configuration, where they're literally starting on the turn,
Yeah.
I have no problem with being inside right there.
That's
Again, look,
Cogburn in the middle there.
Lescano has ridden him many times. It's his regular jockey. He gets Lescano. He's 30-1, folks. He did the 31-1 shot one on Sunday at Saratoga. It happens once in a while.
Yeah.
My feeling is, again, if that's ever going to happen, this is a good place for it. And if you're ever going to beat a horse like Cogburn, this is a good place. And and then I want you to talk about the 10 and the 1, Pete. Not the 1. I just the 10 rather. The wild card here is this 8. You talk about defending champs. How about winning the same race at Ascot 2 years in a row, Pete?
Yeah, this horse has got some. This is a weird one because the form just 3 back wins and wins a nice, the Queen Elizabeth with $1.2 million race, a Group 1 at Ascot. But then the other 3 races are just dreadful this year. It was just a weird. There was just a weird. I didn't know what to do with him, in all honesty.
No, I mean, I picked him second just on that back class, but
yeah.
So they did. I told you I picked against the Euro, Pete.
Yeah, finally. You got him in second, so it's not like you threw him out completely. So.
Yeah, look it's Cogburn or chaos, right?
Yeah,
that's basically
true.
how I'm looking at it. And
that is true.
It's not part of the sequel. Well, unless you're in the degenerate sequence.
In the degenerate sequence
could be. So yeah. But yeah, you picked No Ball second, Pete, and I'm telling you, I think he's a tough. I
mean, for him, it's just if he can recapture the form from last year and the first race back was just a tune-up, and if he can recapture that and there is some speed up front and he can sit off, then I look at him as why not? I mean, he won the Breeders' Cup, and it wasn't like he won it and it was a complete shock. You look at him and go, it was a shock how he won it. But it wasn't a shock that he won it based on talent. It was just a shock that he did it from off the pace. All right, since we're going kind of long, let's jump quickly. We'll just go real quick through our best bets. We'll see if Paul has a little bit of a rant, and then we'll wrap this thing up, and people can watch Ravens Chiefs if they would like. Go Chiefs, -2.5, by the way. So Paul's best bets, I'll read them off first, then you give them a talk here. Race 6, the double, the 4 with the 8 and the 12. And let's talk about that one first. Who's the 4 in the 6th and who's the 8 and the 12?
The 4 is Greenfinch, the Aidan O'Brien 3-year-old filly. He is running against older fillies and mares.
Okay.
And then I'm going to play him, her
Drink.
into doubles, into Buttercream Babe, who we didn't talk a lot about, but I do have as an A. And the horse we did talk a lot about, Vive Vouve.
Yes, Vive
Vive Vouve.
And then in race 11, he has win in place on the one who we just talked about, Gear Jockey. So why the hell not at 30? Why not, man? If you're going to do it, you know how pissed you'll be if he doesn't. Let's see, horizontal.
Oh, no, that horse is being played flat,
Yeah,
Pete,
yeah.
no matter what.
Yeah, this is a good point by Matt. If the horizontals of any length will blow up if both Integration and Cogburn somehow lose. Great show from Katie. Thank you, Katie. Let's do my best bets really quickly. In race 7, which we didn't go in a ton. Race 7, I'm going win on the 2. Kariu, that was the Cherie DeVoe horse, was 6-1. I kind of just like that horse, and that's against your Vive Vouve and your, who did you have in there? Oh, Buttercream Babe. But I kind of like that too, and I like the price. And then in race 10, which I talked about before, and that's the kind of race I think you can do it. I went with the tri-key box, which means you get the 4 horse in all 3 spots, boxed with the other ones, with the 1 highway robber, a 6-1 we didn't talk about, 2 integration, 5 Sugoi, who I put in there because I was scared of that horse as well, the 7 Tawny Port, just because he hits the board, and the 11 Chief Little Rock. So I think that one, if we can get one of those double-digit horses on the top, and we can get smoking at double digits in there, I think that one can pay a little bit. Real quick, do you have a quick rant you want to go into, or do you want to
just and I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I have to. I just 2 things came out just tonight, Pete. That I've talked a lot about the kind of the paradox that is HISA, right? And in fact, I just did a mini rant about it. I think Travis week, but so parks had all sorts of problem. I don't know if any people saw the video. They shut down turf racing. A trainer tragically had a horse go down. There were some divots, big holes, not divots. And the owners did not feel like they were getting the response they wanted. They called HISA. HISA was on the ground literally, I think, the next day. And they announced tonight the holes have been filled. The course is too dry, but it looks like they have a chance to get it back for their big day, which is Pennsylvania Derby Day, which of course has that turf monster, Pete, which is one of the big turf races. So that's a huge positive, because I think in the past, especially at a smaller track like Parks, those horsemen were screwed. Who do they go to, right? So then tonight the story breaks that Phil Serpe has been hit with a positive for clenbuterol. Now, look, I don't know Phil Serpe at all. Even among the trainers I deal with, I don't deal with him much. I know the guys at the special know him well. Forget about who knows him and who doesn't know him, Pete. This is his 40th year as a trainer, okay? According to him, and I'm going to take his word for it because the story didn't say anything different, he's had 0 drug positives. So he's won 1,080 races. So he wins about 30 races, 35 races a year, no less, 40 years, 27 races a year over 40 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Do we think he just woke up on August 3rd or whenever that horse ran and started cheating that day? Okay. I see morons on Twitter already. Oh, we should get our money back. We lost to that horse that beat him. Okay. I will bet any of those idiots anything they want that when the dust settles, this is going to be one of those, oops, it was contamination or whatever. Yeah. Meanwhile, the horse is on the shelf for 14 months as of tonight. Phil Serpe's looking at a potential 2-year suspension. I know there need to be rules. I am pro HISA. I've made that clear. But we have to get, and I understand about overcompensation at this point because of the Navarros and Services of the world.
Yep.
But we have to get to the point where there's a little more balance. And I think we will. I think we will get to the point where there's a little more balance where Phil Serpe, a guy like Phil Serpe, is not going from 0 positive in his life to suspended for 2 years based on one test.
I guess you just wonder if they make a change to at least the penalties or, first, second offense, something like that, do they retroactively reduce some of this? So if you did have someone who got suspended for 2 years, do you then retroactively say, well, I time served because we're going to reduce it?
Certainly,
so
that's already been done, Pete. But what's it going to cost a guy like that in legal fees to get that done? I mean, it's great news if you're Drew Mollica, one of the go-to attorneys, or Clark Brewster. It's great news if you're those guys. But Drew Mollica is not cheap, nor should he be, because he's really good at what he does. So, again, I understand it. I fully embrace the need for HISA. I just look forward to the day where we can have some balance and there could be some common sense to this whole thing. Does that mean a guy couldn't cheat for the first time in 40 years? No, but, it's like, was it the first time Len Bias, God rest his soul, took cocaine, after the Celtics drafted him and he tragically passed away? So anyway, that's my I got to get off the HISA thing, but it's such an important
and it keeps
it's
coming
really
up.
important to this game. And speaking of which, Pete, we should mention, very tough year at Saratoga last year. I think there were 13 racing-related fatalities. Damn it, we almost made it through the meet with 0 this year. We had 1. Poor Tom Morley lost that, the big torpedo, one of his top horses. We had 1, and I understand 1's too many, but you also understand that it's never going to be 0 forever. But hats off to Saratoga for running a damn safe meet, and for all our complaints about off the turf and all the stuff they're doing now. Going from 13 to 1 is pretty darn good.
Pretty good. Yes, for sure. All right. Well, that concludes us for tonight. Thank you, everybody. We had a really active chat. We had a lot of people watching, as always. We went a little long, as Paul and myself are known to do, but we did have an extra race today, so we'll blame it on that. So, and we had to do the postmortem of Saratoga, so we'll blame that for the length. But thanks for sticking with us. Again, for myself, Pete Visco, my co-host Paul Halloran, thanks for joining episode 370 of Picks and Ponies on the HHH Racing Podcast Network. And as always, like we like to say at Kentucky Downs, crush those bets. Take care, everybody. See you.
If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.